Thanks so much for tuning in to Set Apart. This is a podcast that was designed to lock arms and figure out this pivotal season we call young adulthood with other ordinary teens and young adults who desire to be set apart with Jesus rather than conform to the world. So with that, relax and enjoy this episode of Set Apart. Yo, what is up, guys? We are so excited for what we got going on today. We have a special episode. Luan, tell them what we got going on, man.
Should I just give them the rundown, or should we let them our guests? I mean, you're seeing the title over there,
yeah.
So I can't really play the game or whatever. But yeah, this person we got to meet. She's super cool. She's awesome. She filled out one of the forms that we have up in our link tree. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'm not really gonna say a lot. I'm gonna let her introduce herself. So, for you guys that don't know her, it's also our second day knowing her. It's been a blast. But Kristin, if you would like to introduce yourself to the people, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Kristin. I'm a junior here at Liberty. I'm studying social work, RS at the Annex. Shout out, peace out to A-Town.
Yeah, let's go. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get here to Liberty and your story with all that? Because you said you're an RS. Just a little bit about that. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, in high school, that's when I seriously started following the Lord. About junior year or so, right after I turned 17. And I didn't know necessarily where I wanted to go to college. I actually went to a vocational high school, and so I was doing nursing. I did nursing for 3.5 years, had my CNA license, all that.
That's crazy.
And thought that I was going to go to college for nursing until probably January of my senior year. I'm applying to schools and all that. And the Lord's like, no, you're not going to do that. And I'm like, oh, cool. What am I going to do? And he's like, oh, you're going to wait on that. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm looking at hundreds of nursing schools. I'm like, okay, none of those. And then honestly, one night scrolling on TikTok, which I don't have anymore, but
Praise the Lord.
yes, indeed. This video of when I think they were having Camp Com or Convo on the lawn, in the football stadium during COVID, and someone took a video, and I just felt the Holy Spirit say you're gonna go here, and I was like, okay, cool. So I applied the next day, and then a few days after that, found out I got in. Nice. And that was that.
Let's go. That's huge.
Let's go. Yeah. So what about RS and all that? How did that fall through?
Yeah. So my freshman year, wasn't on leadership, nothing like that. And then, but I had been interested, was hired that summer to be a CGL on East. And then all of a sudden we got this email saying,
let's go.
I was actually going to be at the Square.
Oh,
Shout
really?
out my Square girls.
That's lame.
Love them.
Still East. Still East.
That's the fake East, though.
I guess so.
No. But so then they rolled out the huge announcement that the Annex was going to be open. Okay. Gotcha. And I'm like, LOL, who would ever do that? It's not going to be me, right? And they were then an email came out to all the CGL saying, hey, this is what's going on. We need RSs. If you want to apply, here's the link. Mm-hmm. And I said, again, nope, not for me, whatever. Mm-hmm. Second email comes out, I think probably July, and they're like, hey, we still need more people. Mm-hmm. Felt the Lord physically tug on my heart, and That's I was okay. Nice. And so I filled it out, had an interview with my now shepherd and one of the guy sheps, and got hired. 5 days later, came to training.
There we go.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So you've been, is this your first or second year?
Second.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Let's go.
Cool.
RSs, stand up.
Yeah.
Let's go. Huge.
Let's go. RS gang.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, again, Kristin, thank you so much for filling up the form.
Yeah.
And I guess transitioning into what this is all going to be about, the little form there. And I guess if you're seeing the title, we're going to be talking about modesty and identity. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually going to let you explain that. What was that about? It's something that you wanted to talk about. So explain to us, where did that come from, the desire to talk about that? I guess really where the topic came from, or what the Lord has been teaching you through that, if you want to share it with us.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously following the Lord and committing my life to Him in high school, being 17, my life looks a lot different now, at 20. And so I was kind of on this journey of reflecting on what high school used to look like for me and stuff like that. And actually one of my really good friends came up to me and was like, hey, I'm thinking about maybe not straightening my hair for 40 days. And at the time I was like, oh, again, not for me, that's great for you, kind of stuff like that. And so both of us have like naturally curly hair, as I was telling you guys yesterday, and so it's kind of like, why would we ever like do something like that?
Right. I'm from Florida. That is unheard of. Around there.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so it's definitely a huge like cultural thing. Like so many people like do it, and so I was like, well, what's your heart behind it? And she was like, well, like this is how I feel when I'm wearing my natural hair. Like I'm more insecure. Like I don't feel as worthy and stuff like that. And like the more I thought about it, I was like, wow, like you're so right. I've fallen into that too. Yeah. And so we committed to do it. And so it was just this whole process of like trusting in the Lord and like literally waking up every day and being like, Lord, I don't feel confident. I don't feel beautiful. Like, but this is who you've called me to be. This is who you say I am. And just saying that over myself. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, so that's sick. So obviously, like with all those kinds of things, it's very easy to like those are very malleable, I guess, things like anything that you're surrounded, like the people that you're surrounded by, like more specifically like your faith. That is something that is obviously going to like mold the way that you think about this and all those things. So tell me how like maybe that's through your position as an RS or before that in high school or whatever it was. Like how has your faith like kind of molded or shaped that opinion on modesty and identity?
Yeah, so the Lord has really shaped my view of modesty and identity through scripture and time in prayer with him. Like specifically going over scripture, kind of what I was mentioning before with like the no straightening hair and stuff like that. Like I really leaned on Colossians 3:12. Just talking about like we are God's chosen people and like how we should clothe ourselves. The fruit of the Spirit, I honestly just wanted to be a better steward of that. We are the light of the world. Was I really acting like that with how I was dressing, with the way that I was speaking, with my actions and kind of stuff like that? 1 Peter 3:3-4. Not taking it like in a literal sense, because it's like don't wear gold jewelry kind of stuff like that. But at the same time, like getting the silver lining from that and being like my identity shouldn't be focused on what I look like and having my nails done and my hair done and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And it's something interesting because even it kind of came from the conversation we were having yesterday, which I thought it was really cool, and I could kind of like see where that's coming from, like your heart behind it. And I think everything that we talk about here always comes from the understanding of like, okay, like what does that mean to us, or like what does that really mean in terms of like being set apart with the Lord. And something that you said that really stood out to me was the idea that comes from like a heart change, comes from like a heart posture and stuff. So what do you think that, because like I know a lot of people personally, and I can say that I was like that for a long time too, that I did a lot of things, and it was just like, yeah, I know that I got to do these things and I should follow all these rules and stuff, but like deep down in my heart it was just like, yeah, I'm just doing them. So I actually wanted to ask you, like, how was that for you, like that change of heart? Because I think it's a process for sure. Like you don't just change that fully, right? But I do believe that those actions, like those changes that you can see in your life, come from that heart change. So like if you want to talk to us about like how that was and stuff.
I think sometimes it's really easy to fall into like the checklist of Christianity of being like, oh, did I read my Bible today? Did I pray today? Yada, yada, yada. Right. And it's like, that's not fun. Like that's religion. And like, that's not why Jesus came. Like we're supposed to have a relationship with him. And so like the whole like conviction about like bikinis and stuff like that, I was like 17, 18-year-old me. Like, and so it's been a process. It's not like an overnight thing. And it's just been a continual like going to the Lord in prayer and being like, would you change my heart? Because this is what I believe is the truth. Like leaning on scripture, saying like, going off of what the Holy Spirit has like spoken to me and being like, I know this is true. I know the way I'm acting, the way I'm dressing isn't reflecting that. So would you please help me? Because we can't, like, that would fall under self-sufficiency, and we can't meet that.
For sure. No, that's good. I definitely think that like all of those things within heart posture, like I said, can be so like easily influenced. And so like to actually make sure that we follow through with those good steps and like taking it seriously takes a lot of like like intentionality with all of those things. And I think that one thing that like me personally that it like has helped me as far as like taking all those things to heart is just like my friends and like the people that I'm around, and like not even like it's just it doesn't necessarily just have to be friends, but like just your general environment and the way that like you surround yourself. So like what are like some of the things that like you kind of surrounded yourself with in those times to like help it like be easier on you, I guess. Not being like pulled so many ways.
Yeah, for sure. I think in high school it was really hard because it was a very like secular school. Don't know of many Christians that went there. And so I got really plugged into my youth group. And nice. I really started, my family started going to this one church, and me and my sister got plugged into the youth group there. The youth pastors just started, they took us under their wing, and my youth pastor's wife was very kind, like she was discipling me and stuff like that, and just walking through a really hard time with me, and she was an example to me because she was also dressing modestly. What I was talking about with like the whole straightening hair thing again, we had a whole group chat. Like it wasn't just me and her, it was like a whole group of girls, and we would like send texts in the morning, be like, okay guys, like it's day whatever, and I just want to encourage you with this scripture, or you guys are doing great, or blah 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 blah. Like before we started it, like we ran out to like Walmart and we all got like curly hair products, and like we're so excited together. Cool. And it was just like a group effort.
That's
nice.
Funny.
That's so cool.
That's dope. That's nice. So like I think, like I said, a lot of those things that can be so positive to you, like take intentionality, but there's also things that like when it comes to making those decisions, there's certain things we have to look at and analyze, like whether it's good for us in those kinds of situations, like within identity. And I think a big one, like a big topic or a big section of that is like stuff that has to do with your phone. So like social media is like obviously one that everybody in our age like has to deal with and has to like make their own decisions, like how am I going to deal with this, or like it obviously affects us in all a certain way. It might affect Luan a different way than it affects me. Same with you, Kristin. Like so as far as like social media, like how has that played a role into either the negative or positive part of like this whole journey?
I think there's definitely two different aspects, like negative and positive, so I'll touch on both of those.
Got it.
So in high school it was just like all about the posting. It was like all about looking right, so then you could take the right picture, you post at the right time, you get this amount of likes, you get all the things, and it was just like so time consuming, and I came to a point where I was like, this is not fulfilling at all. Like what is the point of that? And so you follow all these influencers and people that you don't know, and whether you like it or not, it's like you get influenced by the people that you're around, by the people like that you are like willingly like looking at on social media. And so then there comes a whole aspect of comparison, and oh, she got this many likes and blah blah whatever. And that's when I was like really in my hair dyeing, full face of makeup kind of phase, and like all that kind of stuff. And so it was just for self-gratification, like it was literally just to glorify myself.
Right.
So now I think it's so beautiful. I try to use social media as a tool to like promote what the Lord's doing in my life, what he has done, and just to testify of his goodness. And that looks like unfollowing, which is so unpopular. But it's like over the years I've just unfollowed for whatever reason. It's not even like I'm against these people or whatever. It's just like, oh, I actually don't know you. I don't like the influence you have over my life, kind of stuff like that. And then kind of like the positive aspect that I mentioned, it's like, yes, I still follow some people that I don't know, but at the same time, like they are married with children and they like have the life that I kind of hope to build, like with the Lord, kind of like how they dress and how they are just ministering and just like sharing with the younger generation. Like that's their whole goal of their Instagram, is to like help younger women like understand modesty and identity in the Lord.
I think the thing that you said about like unfollowing, like, so I don't like, I mean I've been there, so I get it, but like it's such like a sensitive thing. Like people, like we won't even know people, right? Like we'll barely know them from high school or like from around campus, or like they're a mutual friend or whatever. And it's like for some reason so hard to like let go of that, and you're like, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it might be different for certain people, but I don't know, I just find it funny, like how we don't have any, like, honestly, we don't care about these people, like at all. Like we care about people, but not for like them specifically. We don't like wake up thinking about how we can serve them. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just another person, and I think that a lot of that just goes into like it plays into you. Like, you follow them because you want something from them in return.
That's good.
You know what I mean? I feel like, and if you don't follow as many people, then not as many people are going to want to interact with you. And it turns into like this, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like unintentional, I guess. Like, you're just searching for approval.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it goes back to even like, well, this episode is going to come out after. Yeah. So like what we talked about last week, like social media and stuff like that, right? And I think we say this every single time we meet. And we go into this little tangent because we love to talk about social media. It's just the idea of like why. Like, why do you do what you do? Mm-hmm. And I think even goes to that, like, why do you have like that post up? Like, why did you post that picture? Like, why did you have to like share that part of your life? Why do you follow those people? Like, why do you like those photos? And it's really interesting how easy for us, like, we get trapped into that. Because like you said, Zhane, like the self-gratification that we feel, that we feel from it is really weird. It's really weird because, like, I don't know, like, well, not anymore, but before, because I had to create a new account after I graduated high school because I did not want to have anything to do with those people anymore. Right. But before, like, I followed some people that, like, I never spoke to. I have no idea why. Right. Like, I just, like, followed some random people and I liked some random things. And like, now I look back, like, it's weird. Because, like, those people have no influence over my life. They have no say. Right. But just the fact that, like, oh, yeah, I'm watching what this guy's doing because, like, I want something that he has. Or I'm posting these things and these people follow me, so I hope they like what I'm posting. It's, like, really weird. It's a weird trap that we live in. And it goes back to, like I said, the idea of, like, why you do what you do. And I want to point it back to the question is, like, so why? Like, modesty. Yeah. Like, what's the point behind it? Like, what does it matter? Like, if everybody else is doing the complete opposite, like, for us, because, again, I want to clarify, this isn't just for women. I think it's a misconception that a lot of people have. It goes both ways. But, like, why? Like, what's the point behind it? Like, why should we, like, not have our identity found in those places? Like, why?
Yeah, why should I care?
Yeah. You know? Why should we care?
Yeah. It's so important not to necessarily care because it's like, I think to be modest is to glorify the Lord. It's one of the ways that we can worship him. And that's, like, modesty covers a whole, like, thing. It's not even just, like, clothing. It's, like, your speech. It's how you're presenting yourself. It's how, like, you're acting and stuff like that. And so I think that's just another form of worship that we can have with the Lord. Yeah, I think it just gives him the credit and the glory of our lives. And when we are modest and when we choose to follow the Lord, I think it's just so beautiful because it's like we automatically are different than the world. Right.
Yeah, I think like there's so many different parts of modesty, but when I specifically think about the area within like how you dress and those kinds of things, I think that one of the most attractive things to a Christian guy is, like, when they know a woman is beautiful, but, like, yet she chooses to present herself, like, in a modest way within the way she dresses. I heard a pastor, like, quote this one time. He's like clothing that, like, is a frame to your face, like, points to the beauty of God. But, like, clothing that is a frame to your body points to, like, the beauty of yourself. Wow. And it turns into, and I was like, dude, that's, like, actually very true. And, you know, like, it, you know, you can go down the path, like, yeah, well, you know, guys will always have a reason to look at a girl. Sure, that's on them. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things, like, yeah, but the point of it, like, the point of what I'm, you know, trying to get at is, you know, I said, like, clothing that points to your face, but that could be, like, speech that is kind. Like, the way that you talk to people is kind. You know, the way that, like, you serve people, like, it sticks out. Like, those kinds of things. Like, those are things that frame, like, the beauty of God and not, like, yourself. You know what I mean? So like, what do you think is the main, or what do you have to say about, like, distinguishing the difference within modesty of, like, what you wear versus, like, your actual, like, persona and, like, who you are as a person?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely a difference, and it's so important to, like, identify the reason why you're doing what you're doing, and that goes for, like, literally anything in life. Like, it's like, why am I posting on social media? Why am I dressing the way that I'm dressing? Why am I hanging out with the friends that I'm hanging out with? And just making it, like, not your entire identity, because your identity should be found in the Lord. It should be like, he should be the firm foundation, and that should just be an extra, like, that's an add-on because you are following the Lord.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. I like that.
That's huge. And I think, going back to what we were saying, like, I think those those little changes really come from that place of like a changed heart. I don't know, I can say that like from anything. It doesn't have to be just the way that you dress, the way that you talk. I think like when you finally understand that you no longer need to do those things to have like approval of people, you don't like need to, especially like, you know, girls and stuff, like you don't need to dress that way for a guy to like you. Because if he really liked you, you wouldn't have to do that.
Exactly.
If he really cared about you, you wouldn't have to like, you know, give him your body. Like that just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I think when we have that understanding of like, yeah, like my worth is found in the Lord. Like I know what the Lord says about me. I know like that my identity is like solid in him, and like the way that I look doesn't change that.
Yeah.
I think everything else you do stemming from that is just so pure. Just so good. Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah, it's good. So what do you think about Kristin? What do you think about just like how modesty, you know, it doesn't just affect us, but affects the people around us too, right? So I think, you know, whether you're a guy or girl, whatever it is, and within the different areas of modesty and identity, like who you're around is going to affect, right, your own. And then, you know, the people that you're around, like you are going to affect them, right? So within like relationships or friendships, like whether, I don't know, that could be romantic relationship, a friendly relationship, whatever it is, peer-to-peer, how does it like, how do you deal with the complication of like, well, I want to pursue being more modest in every way, but my friends aren't necessarily pursuing that, and they don't care as much, and they don't have the same desire to like honor God in that way. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it just goes down to like the level of friendships, and just like being very aware of your surroundings and the people that are around you. Like, I can't say that I have any friends that are like that, but if I did, it would be more so of like understanding that I feel so strongly about this that I want to lead by example, that this is how I feel like the Lord has called me to live my life, and so I'm going to do that so I can honor and glorify him, and then hopefully by example, as people see, as people do. So hopefully they would just open their eyes to the Holy Spirit and their ears just to receive that from him as well.
Right.
Yeah. And I think even like as you pursue that, like how important it is, like you mentioned, right, like when you're on that little journey with like not straightening your hair anymore and stuff, like how important it is to have people that like back you up,
right?
Because a lot of times you can try hardest, but like if you're always surrounded by people who like couldn't care less about your values or principles and stuff, like it's pretty much just doing that stuff on your own. So like I guess I wanted to touch on the aspect of like accountability and stuff. Like how does that help in terms of like making sure that you're like on the right track, to have people that like not only have your back but like keep you accountable, like hey, like you know that you shouldn't do that, right? Like how does that play a role? Yeah,
for sure. I'll be honest, it was like so hard because my birthday was in that like 40-day window too, and I was like, I really wanted to do my hair for my birthday. I also happened to be in Sweden on a missions trip. It was incredible.
So cool.
But I was like, oh, I would love to like do my hair, blah 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 blah, whatever. And so it was like, it was hard, and some days I'd like text that little group chat and be like, guys, like I picked up the straightener this morning. I know I was so close, but they'd be like, hey, like remember that's not why you're doing it, all that kind of stuff. Accountability, it's important. It's so important. I think, but to be accountable and held accountable, you have to open up, you have to be in community in order to have that. And you have to like open up pretty deep, you know what I mean? Right. And it's like you can't get by with the surface level stuff. You gotta go deep.
I like that, like the example that you use is like kind of straightening your hair, because I feel like most people is like, you know, when they think of modesty, it's like oh, I just can't stop dressing half naked. Like, you know what I mean? Like for some, like, you know, that's like what people think of is like modesty is just like how much you show your body. But I think it's like I love to see how a situation that some people might deem like just, you know, like irrelevant or like why does that matter? Like how you take that seriously and you actually see that through like a lens of like, no, this matters, and I need to like get to the root of this, because whether somebody sees my hair, you know, straight or curly doesn't matter. Like it's not about them, it's about like me and my heart and like me and God. So like I need to analyze like, okay, why do I think this? Because, you know, that can bleed into other areas of your life, right? And it can just make it like harder in so many ways for you. But yeah, just like, I don't know, I think it's so interesting how we can just push off certain things, and other things just like aren't as important.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, maybe what would you have to say about like somebody that is dealing with an issue that they think is like not important just because it's not one that most people would deal with, or isn't like culturally like serious to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the first thing that kind of came to my mind when you asked that was, we're not like identical. We're not supposed to be identical. Like we were created so uniquely by God. Like all of our fingerprints are different. Right. Like our DNA is different. You know what I mean? And so I think with that, it's like, well, what part of following Jesus is supposed to look the same? And so it's like, yeah, there have been many times where I've shared like about my modesty journey, and girls are like, yeah, that's great for you. And I'm like, hey, thanks.
Right.
Thanks. Like, this is what I feel called to do. Like, I'm just trying to be obedient in that. And they don't see an issue with it. And so, like, I mean, maybe the Lord will convict them of that later on, or maybe that's something that they're not supposed to go through. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I'm not supposed to be the judge. Like, I'm just supposed to be here, humble servant, following the Lord, making disciples, all of that. And yet, let the Lord be the judge.
Right. And I love that you say that. I think it's interesting because, like, the Lord is very specific. Not specific. That's not the word I'm looking for. But I think he's, like, a God of details is my where I'm trying to get to. Because, like, I think it's great. And I think, like, living with Zhane is a clear sign of that. Because, like, the things that he deals with are very different than what I deal with.
Right.
Things that he seems as a problem, not necessarily are problems for me. But it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to respect the way that he's going through that. I'm going to help him through that journey that he's going through. Right. And it's just, like, super interesting because, like, I know the things in my life that are small that are really not big deal. Like, it's really not a big deal. But I feel the Lord showing me, like, hey, why do you do that? And like you were saying, I wanted to touch into it, but, like, I didn't want to cut you off. It's just, like, getting to the root of the thing. And, like, that's what I mean by, like, God is a God of details because, like, he cares about the root.
Right.
He doesn't care about everything else because everything else you can just cover, you just take, get rid of it. But eventually something else is going to come up.
Right.
Eventually in a different way, something is going to grow, something's going to come out of it. And it's really, really interesting. And, like, I think it's something that I love that you touched on it because, like, we need to start recognizing and having time to, like, see the root of, like, the things that we do. Like, getting to the place of, like, yeah, this is all great. It might not be sin. Because, like, straightening your hair is not a sin.
No, it's not.
It's all fine.
Right.
But there's something there that's kind of, like, coming in between you and living in the way that God wants you to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really cool. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. And I love that we're talking about this because it's, like, very convicting in a way.
Yeah.
But, yeah. You want to talk about that? I think you're, like, a good guy to talk about that stuff.
I think I was actually kind of thought of, like, a very similar, like, situation to what you, like, had with, like, your hair and all that. This is kind of funny to, like, but it's just true.
Yeah.
Like, for me, naturally, like, I feel better about myself when I get, like, a fresh cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think, like, as a guy, that's just like, ooh, I got that fade. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how'd your wife? How'd your kids? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something that, like,
man when he gets a fade, man.
Yeah. Like, I'll be like talking to like my girlfriend or whatever, and she'll be like, oh, you look handsome. I'll be like, I need a haircut. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't even take the compliment because I'm like, bro, I look homeless right now. Like, I need a haircut. Yeah. And then, like, another thing is, like, very similar. It's, like, shaving my face. Like, I have a thing to where, like, I don't care as much about it. It's, like, not a huge deal. But, like, naturally, like, when I shave my face, I'm like, thank God I did that. Because before, I was getting down there. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's something that is, like, one of those things in my own life where I'm kind of, like, I kind of need to watch that in a way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it seems kind of stupid, and, like, sure, everybody's going to feel better about getting a haircut. Yeah. Like, you paid money for it. You should be feeling somewhat better, you know? But it's just, like, why do I feel, like, uglier, I guess?
That's legit, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess it's, like, I don't know. Because as a guy, like, I still don't really, like, care. Like, I think it's easier for girls to kind of get in that way, but, like, guys, bro, I get insecure. Like, I'm just gonna say that. I'm not saying I don't get insecure. I'm not saying I don't care. I'm just saying it's easier for me to, like, kind of brush that off, I guess, because I guess the standards are not as rigorous for guys in our society. I feel like for women, just the standards are just, like, way higher, and it's very unfair in certain ways. But yeah, that's just one of those things where I'm like, dude, you know,
dude, it's crazy.
Why do I need a cut?
It's crazy how you say that, because like now it just made me think of it. We're all talking about hair.
Yeah.
So long story short, for those that don't know, I had to get a buzz cut like a month ago. My life
voluntary.
All right, that is not true. All right,
voluntary.
I went to get a haircut. It was actually Zhane's barber.
All right, listen. All right, Chuck, if you hear this, bro, I don't know. All right, listen. This man gives the absolute nastiest fades of all time.
It's like actually really good.
Like, he's actually goated.
Yeah.
But it's just with Luan's hair, it was just different. Like,
because like I had long hair.
Right.
So I was coming off of a long hair, and I was like, hey, don't touch my hair at all.
Exactly.
Just give me like a taper fade on the side. That's it.
All right.
Great. I go in. I'm trusting this guy. We're talking. When he shows me the haircut, my heart just drops. I was like, what the crap happened to my hair?
When he turned around to the mirror?
I was so sad, and like he was super nice. Like, Chuck, you're a guy, man. You're a dog. But anyways, so he finishes giving me a haircut. I'm super sad. I act like it wasn't a big deal. I walk back to the dorm. I see myself. First thing you say to me is like, Zhane was like, you look different. I'm like, bro, shut up.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
Oh.
So that did it for me. I was like, because
bro.
they knew I was going to get a haircut. So
That's
like that was
on
his
me.
response. Like, no.
That's on me.
So I'm talking to my friends and stuff. And then I'm like, dude, I can't. Like, the haircut was like all like uneven. It was really bad. So then I call Eric over. He buzzes my hair. And I'm like, what happened? Yeah. And it's really funny because like for that whole like process, dude, like I hated it. Yeah. Like, I went to the store to get, like, hats because it was so bad. But, like, it's really funny how, like, that really messed me up. And it's, like, so small. Like, I just got a buzz cut. Like, who cares? And I was actually, like, really thinking about getting a haircut before that. I just never had the courage. So I did it. But it was like, dude, the way that I would talk to people changed. The way that I saw myself every morning was so sad. Because, like, naturally with the long hair. Like,
sleep with a hat on.
All right, that's too much. But I would wake up in the morning usually with the long hair. And I had to, like, you know, like, move it to the side a little bit.
Right.
And I'll go to the bathroom and I was like, it's the same as yesterday. Nothing has changed. And it was really sad. And, like, now that we're talking about this, it's really crazy how, like, our confidence really comes from, like, those things that really, like, shouldn't matter. Yeah. You know? And I think, like, the Lord kind of, like, told Chuck to mess my hair up, though. Because, like, it was a really good time. Like, it was a really good moment that, like, my heart was being, like, shaped. And it sounds so stupid. Like, yeah, buzz cut changed my heart. But, like, that's the truth. Like, I was going through a process that was, like, dang, like, I really put so much confidence, like, in that, you know, like, the way that I looked. Because, like, bro, I used to get so many compliments with the hair, bro. It was so nice. I'm just saying, he had that flow. Yeah, it was awesome. But, you know, like, coming from that, I'm like, who cares? You know what I mean? And I think it's really, really cool. And, like, how you're saying, Kristin, like, having our identity, like, found in the Lord. Like, it's really cool. And, like, those little things, like, show it. Those little things show, like, where we're lacking. Like not having the hair that I had before. Like, really showed me that, like, whenever I was talking to people, I wasn't necessarily, like, relying on the Lord and, like, what He has put in my life and the wisdom that He's given me in certain situations. Like, I was just, like, relying on myself. Yeah. And, like, it took that to kind of expose it, which is really, really funny. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah.
That's funny, bro. I think, like, everybody kind of has their own thing, you know, that they can think of. Whether it's, like, I don't know, clothing or possessions or, like, friend group or whatever. Yeah, dude, it's real. Like, guys and girls, it's different for, you know, it's different for us. But I think, like, the principle can, like, there is at least one spot in, like, everybody's life where, like, that principle can kind of apply, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, like, I guess one thing that would be helpful, like, within those circumstances that, like, I mean, it seems like we each, you know, can implement, is, like, boundaries with ourselves. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, boundaries as in, you know, whether when I notice something, like when I notice that I'm feeling that way, like, why am I feeling that way? Or just, like, I guess, I don't know, boundaries can be kind of different for people. It's kind of a broad thing, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily, like, a one-stop thing or, like, a one option. So it can be different for everybody. But, like, maybe within your journey, Kristin, like, what have been, I guess, like, boundaries that have helped you within analyzing that and using it in, like, I guess, what's the word? I guess, I don't know, just giving it to God in that way and making it honorable to him. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to overlook, like, the root of everything.
Yeah.
It's our thoughts. And so I think one of the biggest things was, like, the Lord, like, actively renewing my mind. And so last year, my little Jeep, R.I.P. Janice.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Bad times. But I would write, like, these little index cards, and I would, like, stick them all over my car. And so whenever I'd be driving, it would be like, I think Ephesians 6:18 was on the wheel, like, praying for others. And then it's like when I would flip down the mirror, there would be I think 1 Peter 3, and then it would be like Colossians 3:12 on the other one. And so it'd be just like constant reminders of just being like, Lord, like, help me meditate on your word, like, help me. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I just thought about like putting them on like your side views or like your rear view mirror.
Come on, man.
Absolutely blind. My bad, bro. My bad. Keep going. That's on me. My bad.
It's good.
I had to.
Oh, that's so funny. But no, like, really just, like, renewing your mind and just, like, coming to the root of it of, like, it's at your thought. Like, that's where it starts. Yeah. It's, like, before it's an action, it's a thought. That's so really just, like, asking the Lord. I think we were talking about Romans 12:2 yesterday, just, like, renewing the mind and stuff like that. It's so important because it's, like, what we think shapes how we act, shapes, like, our view on other people, relationships, all the things.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's good.
And I think I just pulled it up because it made me think of it. It's Ephesians 4:27. It says, like, do not give the devil a foothold. And I think that's, like, the major way. And I can say that for myself. I'm very, like, analytical with things. I love to think about things before I do anything, which sometimes it's a bad thing. But through that, like, my thoughts go crazy. And then from, like, a small little thought, I'm like, okay. And then the next thing I know, it's like that thing has become such a huge thing. And I think, like you're saying, it's so crucial. And I think when we had a time with JJ, he talked about this, the idea of, like, meditating on the word.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that you're feeding your mind? Like, which is why Instagram is such a huge thing. Like, you're feeding those things, like, to your soul, like, all the time. Like, that's what you're meditating on. And then you forget about, like, the truths. I had a moment this morning that I was just doing that. Like, I was feeling a little weird about some things, probably because of this. It happens sometimes when we, like, record a podcast. And I was, like, feeling very, like, I don't know, off. So I was, like, sitting with my Bible and stuff, had some time. And I was just, like, reading through, like, Psalms. And, like, I have, like, highlighted a lot of, like, different things that, like, the Lord has said about himself. And, like, I was just, like, being reminded of that truth. And I'm like, how often, like, do I just forget about those things? How often do I not take time to, like, actually, like, feed myself things that are helpful, things that are healthy? Having, like, a healthy, like, mental diet is huge. And I don't think we do that enough. So,
Yeah, what's the verse? It's above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
Proverbs 4:23.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Got it. I thought it was in Proverbs. I don't know, bro. Y'all are better than me with the you know what I'm saying. But I think that's another one that's, like, great for that. But yeah, just, like, the renewal of your mind and, like, just day by day, like, meditating on the word is, like, I mean, it's the truth. You know what I mean? Like, the only way to know that something is false is by, like, knowing what the truth is. You know what I mean? Because you can't make up truth. Like, that is very unpopular in our culture today. Like, you cannot make up your own truth about modesty or identity. You cannot make up your own truth about anything. But you can only realize that when you actually go to the truth. Like, the truth. There is not
really good.
The truths. It's not plural. It's singular. Like, and so I think every day, like, you know, and if modesty is a problem for you, then, you know, I think there's certain passages or books in the Bible that may be better for that. You know, you don't have to, like, start in Genesis or something. You know, whatever is best for you. I mean, we have, like, so many resources. We can look up, like, Bible verses about modesty. And then you can literally just start, like, memorizing those and internalizing those. And not even have to read, like, that entire book of the Bible. You could be somewhere else in the Bible reading. But then you're internalizing those ones that specifically, like, apply to you. And yeah, I think, you know, we can make time for anything. You know what I mean? If we want to, we can make time. And I think that making time to, like, meditate on that word day and night, whether it's 15 minutes in the morning, like, and you're good to go and you pray, whatever, then that's what it is. You know what I mean? But start somewhere, I guess, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we talked about this way more in a different episode.
We always kind of talk about
it was like, it was the one that I think I had to do with it was the transitioning and
that's true.
That one.
Yeah.
I think that was like, who cares? Anyways, yeah. So what do you think? What do you think are like boundaries within like relationships though with people? Like not just within yourself, but like within others. Maybe that's like I see somebody else that's affecting my, my relationship with Modesty and those kinds of things. Like how do I, deal with that kind of person? Or if it's the opposite way, like if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, you're not helping me, like how do they deal with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it all goes back to just making sure that you have a relationship with the person that you're going to talk to. Like, I think it becomes a problem when it's just a random girl on the sidewalk and you're like, hey, like, you shouldn't be showing that much skin or blah, 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 blah. It's like, you don't have the right, you don't have that authority in their life to say that. And so I think growing in a relationship and just in friendship or even, like, romantically, if it's boyfriend, girlfriend, like, making sure you have that, like, foundation before it's like, hey, I don't think, like, you should present yourself that way, and just, like, really come at it with truth after, like, processing it with the Lord, because it's like, who knows, like, they may have had something in their past that has affected this, and maybe they like the attention that they get from dressing like that or something like that, like roots, like there's so many roots and they're deep, and so I think just really making sure you have the right to say something.
And there was kind of this quote that we kind of wanted to throw in here, but and this can be within how you dress, within popularity, within your friend group, whatever. The quote is it's from a pastor. I don't know who it is. All these pastors
just claim
are
it.
just not
Start
getting
claiming
their
it.
credit, bro. I'm sorry. Anyways, the quote is, modest is not hottest, but it's better.
Amen.
I actually, hold on. I think I do know who that's from.
Low-key think it's Jonas McCluder.
It's not.
Really?
It's his.
Love him though.
From the Porch. It's another guy.
Oh.
David Marvin. It's David Marvin.
Okay. I think it's the first guy we give credit to all throughout.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
So many quotes.
Paul Washer's in there. JP's in there.
I threw some Craig Rochelle last episode.
Craig Rochelle's in there. All the classics.
Yeah.
Tim Ross is in there probably.
Yeah, we got so many. All right, anyways, carry on.
Yeah, modest is hottest, but it's not better. And it's like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, I mean, a guy that's walking around and sees a woman, like if she is popular, like cares about like her perception, whatever, and all those things, and she doesn't like dress modestly, like there's probably a chance if it's not the kind, like the right guy, he's going to find that more attractive. Like to the girl that is like doing her best to like honor the Lord in all ways within modesty and identity, like the world will not find you like as attractive in that way. But the good thing is that like they'll end up finding you attractive in the ways that matter more. Right? So like you don't like I feel like it can be discouraging to girls and all those kinds of things. Like I feel like this from my girlfriend like sometimes is that like we'll be walking around or whatever together, and then she'll see like we'll walk by a group of girls and like they're just dressed horrible, right? And like they look beautiful, right? Like they're women, they're made beautiful, and God's like they look beautiful, right? And in her head, like it like things can start to come in the mind of like, well, dang, like am I not going to be as attractive because I can't dress that way? Like those little lies just start to seep in, and like we both know like what's like the truth and what's not the truth, but at the same time it's like that can be discouraging at sometimes. Like to guys, like the guys that are just like absolutely yoked, like have like have every single girl on their roster, like I mean whatever, it's like dang, I'm probably not as attractive in that way. But like if you are honoring the Lord in all of your ways, like the right kind of people will find you attractive in the way that matters. And so like when you combine both of those, like when the right person finds you attractive in the right ways, like that's when you'll find like great friendships, great relationships, great like whatever it is. And so I think like it all goes from that quote. But I think that's just like encouragement to the people that feel like, well, if I'm modest, how am I gonna fit in? You probably won't fit in, and that's if you don't fit in as a Christian, you're probably doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And so I just thought, I don't know, that was kind of like random, but
no, that is true. And I think since we're talking about like relationships, it's like a lot of times you like, I know a lot of people that they got into like relationships and they thought it was going to be great. Later on, they're like, they don't treat me well. I'm like, well, they never treated you well.
Right.
You just, that's what you were looking for, and that therefore you found it. And I think like when you start looking,
I like that. They never treated you well. It's facts.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
So it's just a matter of like, like that's what you offered.
Right.
And they fell for what you offered. Therefore, don't be mad. They expect you to be like that all throughout.
Right.
And I think it's really crucial because like if you're looking for the right things, like I know a lot of guys, they're like, oh, I can never find a woman, man. I can never find like a good Christian girl. I'm like, yeah, because you're not looking for the right stuff.
Right.
There are a lot of really good girls around here, bro. You're at Liberty University.
Right,
like,
bro.
where else you're gonna find? You know what I'm saying?
What a time to be alive.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And the reason why you don't find it is because like you're looking for the girls you see on Instagram. You're not gonna find it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really crazy because like that to me was a shift. I know for a fact that for you was a shift.
Yeah.
And for you, probably was for you too, right, Kristin? Like, must have been a shift too. Because like when you start looking for the right things, you're like actually analyzing things by what matters. And it's harder, but like you said, it's better because you're actually gonna find stuff that lasts. You're gonna find things that like build you up and not just like make you feel like crap because maybe you don't look like the other people.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, like if you don't wanna clown, don't go looking at the circus. You know what I mean? Like it's just how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I think as much as there's things out there that you don't want, there are like as much as that you do want.
Yes.
And I think it is harder to find like girls who like will dress modestly and stuff like that. I mean, we're so blessed to be at Liberty, and like that's not too much of a problem here, but in the sense of like it's almost even more rewarding once the Lord gives you those friends because you know like what you've come from, you know like what you haven't had, and so then when you have it, it like it brings those friendships to a whole different level.
Yeah, that's really good.
Like I think when we see, like once we taste like the goodness of like what we actually want in those kinds of relationships and those kinds of things, once we come across the old like desires and things like that, like you know, as like a man of God, like when we come across like, you know, the lustful desires of this world, like our human nature wants to run away from God and choose that, but it's not the same anymore. You know what I mean? Like you can choose that, but it won't be the same. Like it'll make you nauseous. Like it'll just like legit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's like, I don't know why this like little quote just came into my head. Probably mine. I think I made this one up. So I take the credit. It's like you never really know what you want until you really know what you need.
Yeah.
And like, sure, you're never going to know what it means. So like, I'm applying to this, like, I guess into relationships, but applies everywhere. Like you don't know the kind of woman that you want until you know the kind of woman that you need.
Yeah.
You don't know the kind of friends that you want until you know the kind of friends that you need. Like before you can be going to like parties and stuff and like looking for those friends that are like so cool. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like you feel empty. You feel like no one knows you. Why? Because you don't know exactly what you need. You need those guys that are going to call you out. You need those guys that are going to keep you accountable. So until you understand, and going back to like going to scripture, so what the Lord says that you need, right? And so he tells you like the kind of friends you should hang around. Like until you know what you really, really need is when you're shaped, like you're shaping those desires. Like you shape what you want and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it goes both ways. It goes like relationships, like romantic relationships, friendships. And yeah, I don't know. That just came to my mind.
Yeah, I think taking it even back to social media and like having those relationships, I find it's so much harder. Like in high school, I would create posts just to post and be like, okay, this is what the Lord's teaching me. And then as soon as I would post it, it was like, okay, a check mark. And it was like, I wouldn't want to share that with those people that I was in community with. And so I think it's so important, like limiting use on social media. And this might be a hot take, but I don't think you're going to find your dream guy on Snapchat. You know what I mean? And so, like, having...
dating apps, bro. Straight dating apps, bro.
Like, that's what it is,
That's what they turn into to me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, they're just dating apps now. Like, pretty much. Not all of it, but a good portion.
Yeah.
Just what Luan was saying kind of reminded me of, it was Psalm 37:4.
Okay.
It's delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And so, like, I think people, when they hear that, it's like, ooh, the desires of my heart? Like, I got a lot of desires, you know what I mean? But, like, I think the beauty of, like, what Luan was saying and how it relates to that is, like, when you submit to the Lord, like, when he said, he was talking about you don't know the woman you want until you know the woman that you need. Like, God's going to show you, like, what you need, and day by day, like, by submitting to him, he will change the desires of your heart to be like the desires of his heart.
Come on. That's
So like what he wants for you, you'll want for yourself over time, right? It might not be immediately, but once you like actually put that into practice, like day by day, it's like, you know what? I don't want what I wanted anymore. Like, God gave me this, but if he gave me this a year ago, I wouldn't have wanted it, right?
That's my life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, that popped into my head, so
that's really
thought
good.
I would mention it. But
That's really good.
Yeah, so sorry about that. A little distracted. But yeah, so like maybe what are some I guess, you know, as we get closer to the end, what are like some practical steps that, because, you know, I think people that, you know, listen to like podcasts like this always, you know, I think it's dumb if like they don't really get a way to implement it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe just ways that you found in your own life. You know, maybe just, you know, you could be talking specifically to girls, doesn't matter, whatever it is. Like practical steps that you've implemented in your life that have helped you to walk it out better.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've already mentioned a lot of them,
Yeah.
but really just renewing your mind, like seeking the Lord in prayer, seeking godly friendships, going to his word, meditating on it, all of that kind of stuff. But I think being in college, a lot of us hope to be married and have kids and all that when we get out of here.
Right.
And I think for me, it was like such a huge realization. It's like, if I'm struggling with this now, like I would never want my future daughters to like struggle with this. You know what I mean? Like it is such a consuming thing to struggle with. Kind of as we were talking, the Lord just showed me like we might be living life. Like if we like struggle with this, like we might be living life, but like this is not the abundant life that he has called us to. And so like kind of wanting to fix that now, so that even though like I'm 100% single, nowhere close to marriage, it's like even like just as his daughter, that I can walk in full freedom and walk in full confidence, knowing that my identity is in him. And then hopefully like when I'm married and then have my kids, like they won't, like this won't be something that they have to struggle with.
That's so good.
Yeah, I think it's so important to like to remember that like we need to analyze these things, and once we do, like to do our absolute best to fix them now rather than later. Because like you were talking about, like if you don't fix them now and you just keep waiting, like this is something that can affect ultimately like your kids or like your marriage, things like that, and it can bleed into those other areas of your life that you never thought it would, because like you didn't, I guess, you know, some people might have known of it but just ignored it. Others just may have never like took the intentionality to analyze like what is it that is, you know, that I'm deceiving myself about, like what is it that is not being made clear. And so yeah, I think the importance of dealing with those things now is so important, but that might be harder to do for some people because they might feel like they can only do that on their own. You know what I mean? Because they don't have people that will support them and all those kinds of things. So I think one thing that is very important that ties into this, like once you start your journey, I think literally the next step is to find like a group of people that are going to be there to support you. So like, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think honestly, like asking the question, like going to your girls, going to the guys, being like, hey, like this is something that the Lord's been speaking to me, like I want to try to do this, like 9 times out of 10, at least someone else in the group has already been thinking that, and they want to also do that, and they want to take this next step to like follow the Lord even deeper. And so then not only is it a mutual agreement, but then it invites just so many people around them, and it's like, who knows, maybe they're in a leadership position, and so they have so much influence over the girls on their hall, the guys on their hall, or just like people in class or stuff like that, and it just like trickles down. And it's like, I think sometimes we take for granted how much influence we really have. And so kind of just fixing it now and just inviting people in is the way to go.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, and you know, as far as like analyzing, I think just asking the Lord for like clarity and wisdom, being like, God, like I know I'm a sinner, I know I'm just naturally like I have a sin nature, and there's so many things that come with that, and like God, like just please make clear to me any ways that that I am deceiving myself, or that I am being led astray, or that anyways I am ignoring you or going away from you. Like I think once we stop hiding from God, we can stop hiding from ourselves. Right? And so yeah, like once you stop hiding from yourself, then you can stop hiding from other people and bring that in, and that's where you can find like healing and all those kinds of things. But yeah.
No, that's really good. think the main part was just that, like, having people, man.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that for myself. For a huge portion of my life, I just, like, never let that happen.
Yeah.
Because I've always been very, like, I can do this on my own. I got it. Like, I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And never allowed anybody in. And, like, I would always start off really well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I guess I'm determined enough. Like, I got it on lock. I'll do it. But after, like, that first week, though, things start getting hard. And, like, I give up a little bit. Like, you know, there's a saying that people say, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. Kind of thing. And I think this is real for, like, even this. Like, if you really want to make this last, like, don't do it by yourself. Because maybe it will start off really well by yourself, but the chances of you actually finishing strong are so slim. So having people that you trust, because at the end of the day, like, this is really scary. Like, opening up your heart to people is, like, scary. Because you never know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know how they're going to respond and respect your heart. So it's scary, but, like, when you find those people that you trust and you're actually, like, relying on them as you rely on the Lord together to go far, I think there is a lot of power in that and a lot of wisdom, too, because then you're not just, like, doing everything on your own. So find a group.
I think that one thing that is, like, almost like a foundational principle to, like, everything we talk about is episode 3, which is, like, just about friends and peers and all those kinds of things. So much of what we say goes back to, like, who you hang around. And so, like, if you haven't heard episode 3, I think that's, like, just a great, like, resource of how just, like, digging deeper into all those kinds of areas, like, of, you know, accountability, friends, sin patterns, all those kinds of things. But yeah, I think that's something that is definitely beneficial if you're still having questions after this episode, for sure. But yeah. Kristin, anything else?
I think that's all I got.
Dope.
Let's go. That's all I got, too.
Well, guys, as you heard in the beginning, Kristin was able, you know, we were able to meet together and actually do this because she filled out the guest interest form, which you can find in our Instagram bio. I forget our Instagram every single time because I'm an absolute L.
I mean, you don't have Instagram, so, like, I'll give you that grace.
Sure.
And I'm the one in charge of it. I'm never on Instagram.
He's the social media manager.
I suck. If you see the thing, you have, like, one post every, like, 4 months.
I think it's the set apart.
It's the set apart .podcast.
Okay, the set apart .podcast. That's the handle.
That's what it is.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you can go there and get the link tree to, you know, YouTube, Spotify, but then also the guest interest form is going to be in there too.
Everything's there. And if you have any questions, any issues, any complaints, just send us a DM.
Yeah.
Maybe that could turn into an episode on the podcast as well.
Yeah, sure. I
don't know.
Yeah, no. If you guys have any interest in doing that, we'd love to have you on. Thank you so much, Kristin, for being here. First female on the podcast. Let's go. Yeah, so excited.
So honored.
Cool. Represent. Let's go. Ladies, stand up. Yes, sir. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Please like it, share it with all of your friends and family. If not, I'm just kidding. Please do that. We'd appreciate it. We love you guys. And we hope you have a great week. And we'll see you next time on Set Apart.